Where do you think this is going in terms of the president's plan to potentially get us out and reopen by June 1st? He's talking now that we'll be in recovery, but he needs to get those governors to lift their shelter-in-place orders. He doesn't have the power.
Right. Well, I'm back in Arizona now. Last time I talked to you, I was in D.C., and we're collaborating with the governor and also with our local leaders. This is an all-hands-on-deck approach, but we're seeing the virus hit at different rates across the country. We still need more testing capability here in Arizona, and I think the more we learn about this virus, as the experts have shared, we're understanding how it behaves, how it spreads. I think if we could get to a place where we're able to, for example, test every healthcare worker when they go on shift, or everyone who works in a nursing home or skilled nursing facility, that we have a better understanding of who has had the virus and no longer does, and then perhaps they are immune, as we're studying some antibodies that's happening here at University of Arizona. And the tests that are happening to maybe harness those antibodies to help our frontline healthcare workers. We don't know. Arizona gets hot pretty soon. We don't know whether the heat is going to impact this virus like it does with other similar ones. So there's still a lot of questions as we see local and state and federal decisions, because this is impacting at different rates, although we all understand how important it is for us to be socially distancing in order to save other people's lives.
You know, they are tightening the borders of Florida and Texas, calling for travelers from the New York metro area to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. I want to move on to this. Johnson & Johnson now says human testing of the vaccine to begin in September. Newspapers like the Washington Post quoting health experts saying, we can't do this forever. The leader of France saying that we can't shut down forever. We need to have an economy to pay for the cures, to pay for public health. So that's an excruciating decision to be made. I mean, infectious disease specialists talking about a reopening plan. This is out of the American Enterprise Institute. To what you're saying, they're talking about testing 750,000 Americans. Do you think that's enough?
We need to get to a place where the development of the vaccines need to continue. I think at last count, there's about a dozen efforts going on. Again, another one here in Arizona at Arizona State University. That's ultimately going to be able to defeat this disease. But in the meantime, we need to continue to be investing in the treatments, the trials for the antivirals, harnessing the antibodies, the plasma, all those things that you're hearing about, because we can't wait until the fall. We can't wait until 2021. We want to make sure whatever treatments we're using are safe, but they are really fast tracking these trials so that we can get through these next weeks and months, ultimately defeat this virus, and the vaccine will protect, but we also need to study, obviously, if it's mutating and whether the vaccine will be impactful next year. So this is what all the experts are the greatest minds in America are on this. I'm very proud of their efforts. Things are moving faster than we've ever seen before, because this is such a critical situation and so many lives are on the line.
You know, the president, again, mixing it up with reporters in the Rose Garden. They were pushing back on the president on statements from people like Larry Kudlow saying it was contained when it wasn't. Those questions continue to come up in these press conferences. How do you think the president's doing handling those questions?
Well, I think people realize that this is an unprecedented situation, and I think all of us are learning a lot about this. This stopping of the travel from China was significant and did buy us some time. There will be a time for us to debrief. We do this in the military, but while you're in a war, it's time for you to be taking notes, but looking forward and not back, and figuring out how we can all work together in a unified way, not a divisive way. Everybody is giving their all here. We all have the same objective: to save lives, to protect our frontline healthcare workers, to save the greatest generation. So people can take notes. Let's do a debrief later. But for right now, let's break down these barriers, get more solutions out there, get more equipment out there to our frontline heroes, and do everything we can to defeat this thing.
Yeah, 2020 hindsight, Monday morning quarterbacking, just not right now. Save it for later until we get, when we get out of this. The governor of Michigan is also saying what you're saying, too. Senator McSally, thanks for joining us. We just ran out of time. We got to go to a commercial break.